Another thing we want to add to our notes is a widget that shows our text for people who might have trouble reading the fonts on the physical note. You'll see in quite a lot of games where there are notes, there's a little pop-up that says press E to read or whatever, and you press that, and the text comes up in a much clearer fashion just in a UI. But right before we get into that, I want to fix one bug that I didn't realize I came across in the last episode. We can just keep picking up more and more notes if we just keep hitting the E button. You can kind of see on the edges here that it's just stacking on top of each other. And we definitely don't want that. So to fix this, let's go into our blueprints, actors, notes, and BP Note Master. And what we want to do is just make sure we don't create another widget if our widget is already open. So here you see we input action, which is our E button, and we create the widget and add it to the viewport. What we need to do is create a variable from this. So we will drag it off promote to variable, and we'll call this W examination note ref. And we're just gonna plug that in like that. And then we can, if you want, just use the variable here to, use the variable here, but it does not make a difference. And then just at the beginning, when we press E, we just want to make sure that our widget does not exist. So we will get an isValid node, get the second one, which is the macro. And we only want to do it if it is not valid. And then we want to set this variable back to nothing once it is destroyed. So we can go into the actual widget, W examination note. We can just click this little browse button. It'll take us right to it. Open it up, graph, and we have to find the spot where we remove it, which is close examination widget. And after all this, we can get this current note variable, which comes from the BP Note Master, get the variable we just created in here for W examination note ref, and set W examination note ref, and we just won't plug anything in to here, so it sets to null. All right, and we can test that out now. So if we hit E, we create one. If we hit E again, nothing is happening. And we can close it, and everything works as intended now. Okay, so let's get to the actual point of this episode, which is to create a widget to view the text better. Now, first thing is we have these note texts here, right, that show us what the text on the physical notes say. But these little breaks right here to show us when we want to create a line break, that will not translate onto UI text. It works for this 3D text here, but it won't work in our UMG. So we actually need a new variable for this. So what we want to do is go to BP Note Master. Let's add a variable called widget text. And this is just going to be the text that's displayed on the widget. So this can also be variable type text. And essentially this will just be whatever this text says without the line breaks. We do want it editable, so make sure you toggle that on. And that's all we have to do here for now. So let's go back into W Note Examination. And I want to add a few things to this widget. So we definitely could make the text that comes up a separate widget if we wanted, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference. I'm just going to have it pop up on the same widget. So let's add a button, and the button is going to be called read text button. And let's make the Z order 2 because we want it in front of everything, so we always make sure we can press it. And we need to make sure it's above the drag detection as well, which has a Z order of 1. We can just reposition this somewhere. I'm just going to put it like here in the bottom right, course, this doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna get a general idea of where I want it. So negative 720 and negative 300 seems to work. Let's make this 250 by 60. Why not? All right, so let's add some text to this. And let's just have this say read. And I'm just gonna make this our Calibri font. Bold, doesn't really matter. Shadow color, and I'll give it a little bit. This is all optional, of course, and you can make this look however you want it. Next, we want a black image to cover everything up to make the text easier to read when the text shows up above the black image. So what we're gonna do is just get an image, and we're just gonna call this black image. We're gonna anchor it to the full screen and make all the offsets 0. And the Z order, we want it to be 3. We want this to be even above the button. Let's make it completely black, and let's make the alpha 0.3, so it's a little translucent. And this will just pop up when the text pops up, so it makes it easier to read. And lastly, we need that text that's going to pop up, so create a text block. And you can just place this wherever you want. I'm gonna put it in the center. I'm gonna make the size something pretty big, like 650 by 800. And then I'll just make the alignment 0.5, 0.5. So I can put the positions at 0, and it is perfectly centered. I might make it a bit smaller, maybe just to kind of fit the size of the note. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So 550 by 400. Okay, and just to see what we're working with a little better, I'm going to take our image here of the note and just hide it real quick so we can see what we're doing. So you can do whatever you want with this, with the font, change it to Calibri, italic, I don't know, something that's easy to see though. And what we want to do is scroll down and turn on auto wrap text. Now this will break the lines for us. That's why we created a separate text variable that will not have the line breaks, because once it reaches the end right here, it'll automatically go to the next line. We also want to make sure the Z order, this one is on the very, very top, and so we'll give it Z order of 4, which is one above the black image. And lastly, we need a way to close the text after we're done reading it, so that I will create another button in the canvas panel, give it a Z order of 5, so it's above even the text. I'm gonna anchor it to the upper right, and I'm just gonna make this 100 by 100, sure. Position X. Let's see, what's the reads position X? It's negative 720, sure. 720, and we're gonna bring it down to 320, or 300. All right, and I'm gonna make this button have text on it that just has an X. Calibri, like 30 or 45. Probably be better to have some kind of image here, but that's not something we need to necessarily go over right now. And then I'm gonna make the button styles invisible, so it's just the X. And I'm just gonna call the button close button. And we need to make this black image the note text, or I'll call this, yeah, I'll just call it note text. And we want to make it a variable. And this close button, we just want to make them all invisible at the start. So let's search visibility. and we're going to make it collapsed, and close button, collapsed. And now this doesn't show up here in the editor, but we will not see these. And I'm going to turn this back on, so this is what we will see when we open the widget at first. Okay, so we just need to set this note text right here to the correct text right there. So if we go to Event Graph, in Update Widget, we just have to get this note text, which I'll just remind you is this one, set text, and the in text will come from this note actor, and it will be the widget text. Because once again, if we just use this note text right here, it would also show the BRs for the line break, and we don't want that. Now let's create on read button. When we click this, so on clicked, or I prefer to use on pressed, we want to get the black image, just making sure it's a variable, and we want to set its visibility to visible, and we want to do the same for this note text and the close button. So note text and close button, and then when we press this the close button, which is not visible at the moment, when we press this, we want to set these three back to collapsed. So let's test this out. So we have our notes here. So this one says, turns out the mansion is haunted with the line break. So in the widget text, we need to type the exact same thing except to take out the BR. And we'll do that for this one as well. And take out the line break. And let's test this out. So let's just go up to one of the notes, hit E. Turns out the mansion is haunted. Oh, but my poor eyes can't read this text very well. Let's hit read, and this text comes up. Oh, that's much clearer. And then we can hit the X, and we are back to normal. If you also want, just to make it easier, you could easily add some kind of like background blur in between these three and the rest to kind of differentiate. For me, I'm just gonna take our image right here, which we should probably name something, but it doesn't really matter. And when we open the read text, I'm just gonna set the visibility to hidden, and then set it back to visible when we close the button. Just for this case, but of course you are free to go about this however you want. There we go. All right, that's going to conclude this episode. I will see you in the next one.